Hello there and welcome to Eventful Arabia, the show that brings you behind the scenes in just about everything that's going on in the exciting world of events here in Dubai and indeed right around the Gulf. We're very excited to be here, and I'm even more excited to introduce my guest today. It is the Executive Director for Expo City Dubai. Please, a warm welcome with me to Nadia Verjee. Thank you so much for being here. It's great to see you.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited for our conversation.
There's been so much going on at Expo, and, I really want to, I suppose, let's go back to the beginning, because let's go back to the beginning when we think about the bid round in terms of what happened to get Expo here. And indeed, I suppose, how did it evolved into a national campaign. It wasn't just a bid round. Bring us back to that date and maybe we'll carry on from that.
So I love talking about these days because I was head of strategy for the bid. So I want you to use your imaginations and I want to transport you to a bunker in a hotel in Paris the day of the vote or a couple of days before the vote, when we were locked in a room with, papers on the walls of which countries are going to vote for us and which ones in round 1 and round 2 and round 3, and debating with the leadership about how could this country not be supporting us and how could that country, be supporting us in this round. So a very, very forensic review over sort of a year and a half of lobbying, campaigning, top down with national governments and with foreign ministries and getting letters of support, but then also bottom up with the people who are going to be pressing the button on voting day. So just this real sort of momentum building towards the actual vote, which was in Paris. So when we began the journey, a lot of us didn't really know what a World Expo was or how to go about even bidding for one and campaigning. And then towards the end, really understanding how this is such an important exercise in international cooperation, in international collaboration, how you can build relationships between two nations and people at a government level, at a thematic level, because it really is about themes and subjects and bringing, sustainability, mobility, opportunity, these themes that we got to know so well during the World Expo to life. And I think, by the time we got there, we were the David against the Goliaths of Russia and Turkey and Brazil. And we had put a campaign in place that we would secure 67 votes in round 1 and secure 10 votes in the second round once one of the countries, who will not be named, dropped out. That was our campaign. And lo and behold, a couple of days before the vote, I had written 77 on the board, circled it. We all looked at it. We all sort of believed in it. And we got 77 votes in round 1.
There you go. Just manifesting it. It's so
absolutely amazing.
How wonderful. I bet at the time there was a lot of nervousness there, but great excitement on doing something so different, so new. But having put it in place and having secured it, I guess, for the United Arab Emirates, what was the impact then regionally in the Gulf region and possibly even further afield as well?
Yeah, there was the obviously the reputational impact of a country like the UAE and the city of Dubai, that at that point, sort of 12 years ago, winning such a big global event, the national pride that you will remember that we all felt, but also the fact that we had one of the largest landslide votes in history, meaning that so many countries around the world voted for us, was really an endorsement. And I think that gave us a real push. It gave us a real sort of advantage to go back out into the world and really talk about our ambition. We're 200 nationalities here in this city alone. So the fact that we're such a global city means that we've got that global footprint already. And what a great springboard to go back out and then invite all of those countries to participate. And we got 192 countries participate at the World Expo. So that was sort of 2016 to 2018, 2 years of hardcore lobbying to get them to come. But reputationally, I think that was a real advantage for us. And then commercially, we were always intending, and His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, our Vice President, Prime Minister, ruler of Dubai, always said that this was going to be a place that was catalytic for the future growth of the city. And that's exactly where we are today. So, if you take a leap forward, we are exactly where they had always anticipated we would be in terms of commercial gain too.
I find it fascinating because, we think it's just an expo, fine. But when you go back to the history and the work and the strategy and so many people having to come together, it is quite remarkable that it comes together. We're going to talk a little bit about what's happening now and where it's going in the future. But even at the time, I think, when we get an expo, this is big, this is huge. And as events go, probably was one of the biggest that was actually done here. Do you think that then, I suppose, launches the city, the country onto the global event map?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think it's catalytic in every single way. From an events perspective, it's categorized as a mega event, so it's right up there with the big events that only really come into a city for a couple of weeks, so the Olympics or so. But this is 6 months. So think about the value chain impact of that on our economy, on our SME community, on social value creation for jobs and employment, and for volunteerism. And really just sort of in every facet of society, looking at how to integrate youth. I mean, we had 1 million school children come through our doors, really under 1 million eco-warriors, understanding what it means to be sustainable and taking all of that with them and visualizing what does it look like when the world comes together. And so what we did was really kind of understand what could be the impact that an event like this could have on every level of society, with every kind of stakeholder, so that it really leaves a significant economic, reputational footprint.
I mean, I remember being with some friends close to, the phasing down of it, thinking we could do this forever. We could actually keep this going.
If any countries asked us to do it, and we said absolutely not.
If any city could have maintained a year-round expo, it just it had that feeling, because you got so used to going up there, spending time, and we thought we could keep coming up here. This is a nice thing to do.
And there was so much to do and so much to see, right?
But tell me, I mean, often when we look back at, I suppose, the reason for expos and the history of expos, they tended to be industrial showcases, and it was probably a little more business oriented back in the day. But this was, it was all embracing. This was an expo that brought everybody together. As you said, the eco-warriors, the children, the schools, everything. It really was the expo for the people. Do you think it has shifted now, how expos are perhaps perceived, or what they could be?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great question. In the past, they were always hooked around moments, economic moments, or moments of revelation.
And we didn't miss that either here by any means. That was very important.
But we're at a pace and a moment in time where sort of we don't have to wait for a World Expo to see the next greatest human invention. And so that was always a struggle for us, was over the course of history from 1851, every single time there was an expo, it was a revelation of humanity's ingenuity and humanity's invention. But we don't live in an era that has to wait for that these days. And so when we thought about the themes and the relevance and the global mandate and the global message that our expo could communicate, it was really sort of mostly wrapped around sort of common denominators between those 192 countries, thinking about questions of sustainability, thinking about, well, what does economic opportunity actually mean, whether you're in Nairobi or whether you're in Boston, or whether you're in another city, or whether you're in a Pacific island, trying to draw the connections between all of these different places. So what we did was we created these 3 sub-themes of sustainability, mobility, and opportunity, around which they could find connections and commonalities, but also find their individual voice and their individuality. But I think what we did very well was take sort of a global framework like the Sustainable Development Goals, which have an economic agenda, which have a political agenda to some extent, but also really have a social agenda. And the idea was, we'll take this as a framework and manifest, well, what does that look like when the world shows up looking its best? And I think what we also really tried to do was create this threshold experience of what UAE hospitality looks like, what the city of Dubai looks like when you bring all of these nationalities together, because it really does have a sort of a global identity, our city as well. And that was something that we really took pride in. So making sure people knew that they were in Dubai and it had, very much the Dubai Expo stamp.
Oh, it really did, because I had some friends who came in to visit and came to work for Expo in a variety of countries and different roles. And yes, they combined it with a holiday. Of course, they were going to do that. But and Expo, of course, being the star of the show at that time. But it was fabulous, and it really did become, I think, a tourist event for 6 months.
And then what we also did, I mean, you know, you're triggering my memory here, is that we created these experiences called visitor journeys. So if you were a visitor and you were particularly interested in food, and you're a big foodie, and you wanted to go on,
and there was great food there.
It was very, very good food. Very
good
food. The Japanese pavilion particularly. Yes. We had to book 2 weeks in advance, you know, before you even knew you were hungry. You know, you had to get a table. but the experience, if you were interested in food, we would take you on a hot sauce trail so that you could go and find, you know, 20 hot sauces from around the world.
I missed that one. I would have had fun.
Yeah.
I'd have had great fun doing that.
I'll go back and see where I can find these hot sauce names for you. But if you were interested in space and you were a budding astronaut, you came during Space Week, you saw 7 actual real astronauts in Al Wasl under a show in the Al Wasl Plaza that takes you up into space and shows you about the UAE's mission to Mars. So all of these sort of combined experiences really give you a flavor of the UAE, give you a flavor of what a World Expo aspirationally tries to do, is trigger a young person's imagination about what the world could be in the future, but also what it looks like now. But really enjoyable for a visitor who might be in town just for a couple of days.
Let's talk just a little bit about the event space, because you had so many magnificent event spaces. But the one, I think, that just magical dome that is Al Wasl, I mean, that is still something incredible, and it's something that people can go out at any day, any night, and go just almost not just gaze up at the stars, just gaze up at the dome.
And just lie there and lie in our plaza and just embrace the experience. Yeah, absolutely.
But what a great space to actually have. You know, when you think about the spaces, you had such variety. Usually people are probably limited when they're doing an event. They have a hall, they have what they do, but this was, I mean, it was magic around the place.
Yeah, it was magic. The architect, Gordon Gill, said, boldness has magic and genius in it. And the idea of being really bold, thinking about creating an outdoor room or an outdoor, I mean, it's a garden, but it feels like a room. It feels like this cocoon of an experience, but you're enveloped in the show, you're enveloped in the space, you're enveloped in what's happening on stage. And it really is a spectacular venue.
It really is. And you've been able to use it for many, many things since.
From Coldplay to winter, to our winter festival, to, you know, it's regularly used for many different events.
And long may it continue. Talk to me about, I mean, you know, the idea of a 6-month event that's going on. Clearly that creates a few event experts, so to speak. I mean, if you've done an expo, and I was so lucky to have actually experienced doing some work up there, so it was great to do it. But do you think people are rambling around the world with their Expo Dubai experience and card?
A lot of them that I know are already in Osaka, and I'm getting all these messages saying, thinking of you, when are you coming? But yeah, absolutely. You create this entire cadre of very well trained, very familiar with the institution, with the values, with the principles, with the ambitions of what a World Expo is. And so we've created sort of an entire army of Expo specialists, whether in operations or in event delivery or in, sort of in the events and entertainment space, or more in the specialist programming space, which was what I was responsible for, the global program at Expo. Sort of a lot more sort of technically content rich conversations. There's an entire breadth of those that are really in the world, and not only working in Expo, but they've been working for other big mega events in the region and around the world. So I think that there are some as far away as Los Angeles, those that were in Qatar, and now in Osaka.
It is. It's really extraordinary, yes. And it's great to have had, that big chunk of a 6 month. But talk to me now, because it was an exciting 6 months. We were there almost every week. There always was going to be a legacy of Expo. It wasn't going to just happen, which, in some parts of the world it has happened, and that's it. Nobody remembers it almost for what it is. But this Expo City is alive and well. And that was very much part of the original plan, wasn't it?
Yeah, Legacy was the first department we established. So we won the bid in November 2013, and by February 2014, the Legacy department was established. And the idea being, well, where are we going to host it physically? And what does that parcel of land become vis-a-vis the rest of the city of Dubai?
You forget it was once desert. That's so true.
We had one gaff tree. It was complete desert. And so this extension of the city, and cities today are very, because of rising populations, in Dubai's population is going to double by 2040, where are people going to live? And that's a common question that many cities ask themselves. So when we looked at this, what urban transformation looks like with a big mega project, how does a mega event really catalyze the future growth of a city? It was very important not only to find a space, but to find and establish the right partnerships with those in the city, like with the Road and Transport Authority, with the metro. So now we have the biggest metro station in Dubai at Expo City Dubai. So making sure that all of those routes of connectivity were established as part of that selection process of the venue. And so it was about finding the right place. It was about finding the right partners to enable that place to thrive and really make sure that Legacy really is, it came as the first department, but really then the work is executed in a way that once the show is over and the doors are closed, that the work for transforming that into the city that it is today can begin. The challenge was when we closed our doors on Expo 2020, we didn't know that we were going to be the host of COP28. So here comes along the biggest climate change conference into
and you
our
happen
city.
to have a venue.
And we happen to have a venue, but then we have to transform the city again into the green zone and the blue zone. And you'll remember from COP28 that requires a lot of build-up and organization around, well, how do you actually then take the city and then repurpose it for a COP28, which shows its flexibility as a venue and as part of the city. But then once COP28 was over, then began the work of what we had originally always intended, was then bringing in your commercial tenants, your corporates. Now we're building at a very, very, very good pace, and we're expecting our residential community to move in next year. And so all of this and really kind of changes the texture and the nature and the vibe of the city, but it's still very much part and parcel of the future growth of the city. We also have the Dubai Exhibition Centre, which is just on our doorstep, opening this year with the first event, which is the Asia Pacific City Summit and Mayors Forum, October the 27th to the 29th. That kicks off the calendar of activities. So all those big shows that happen in downtown and in the chokehold of the city will all be moving up. So you've got great parking, you've got great access on highways, you've got the metro, and you've got what will eventually be 1.2 kilometers of exhibition space.
Talk to me a little bit about that, because I want to come back and specifically look at that. We've been to many events already at the Dubai Exhibition Centre, so it's up and running. It's building. You're building it out. It's going to be bigger, but how important is that going to be now? The location's great because, as you said, it's easy to drive there. It's easy to use public transport to get there.
Yeah. So
just talk us through a little bit about, I suppose, the plans for that, because you set up a very strong base in the exhibition centre that's there. And as you say, it's going to get bigger. Tell me more.
It's going to get bigger also because, the appetite for hosting events in this part of the world is only growing. If you look at our neighbors and you look at the ambition that some of our neighbors have in Saudi and in other places, that the events industry, and we were speaking about this earlier, this appetite for people to convene in person, I don't think is ever going to go away. So that human to human exchange is part and parcel of getting to know people, getting to know products, getting to participate in an exhibition of scale, whether it's sort of a niche product or, a massive event that we know so well, like a GITEX. So all of the facilities really accommodate for this growing appetite for this part of the world to really be a center for that exchange.
So there's going to be much more choice for people to, and again, much more, I think, just space for people to come here when they're looking at this. They're not just looking at Trade Centre now. They can look beyond that. And we can have two big conferences at the one time here.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I think what Dubai has been able to do, and it's proven itself over and over again, and really in the UAE more broadly, you see it much more in Abu Dhabi as well, is that it's highly responsive to the needs of the market. So when there's a new issue or a new area of interest or experts in a new field that they want to convene, suddenly overnight you'll be able to pull up, the next best event. So, AI is a great example of the number of different events that we've got on AI or on fintech or on sort of newer emerging areas of strength for the country, but also of interest to the world. So that flexibility, that ability to be able to program quite quickly and convene the best minds, I think is also a real strength that this city has.
When we talk about AI and we talk about the digitalization of every industry in the world, how has it impacted the events industry?
Yeah.
We talk about people wanting to come, and sometimes people are saying yes, but the potential for AI and robotics, and maybe the fact that events can all take care of themselves virtually and we don't need to be there. I'm not too keen of that. I'm at an event probably once a week, and as you said too, the key thing is people want to be there in person.
I agree with you. I think the technology component, if done well, and if done in a way that really enables people's participation to be sort of enhanced in some way, is really beneficial. But as a replacement to physical convening, I'm not seeing that trend at all. I think it really is about the quality experience and really human connection. So I completely agree. That's not a trend that that replacement is not something that we're seeing.
Yeah, we're certain. I don't feel it either. More and more events we go to and people, want to be there. So that's very good. But
outside of the exhibition centre, there's a lot of these cultural events that we also hosted at Expo City. So events for quality of life, for community engagement, for people who just want to come and enjoy family time. So our Christmas festivals, our Easter, experiences, the fact that we still have a lot of our exhibitions in Terra, so under the ocean and under the forest, you're seeing a lot of people still showing up and really coming in very, very large, ever increasing numbers. And so it's not just for the business side of the events, but also the more cultural community side.
And I think that will be a very exciting, sort of part of that legacy of Expo as well, whereby there's non-stop activity that's going on there. And when we see more residential people moving there, it is becoming its own, little town, little village, little centre.
It's a 15-minute city. So it's sort of pedestrianised. 70% of our city is shaded. So it's cooler. We're about 4 degrees cooler than the rest of Dubai in some parts of our city. So it's just more pleasant to be out and about. So kids on bikes and ice creams, and it's just got that vibe about it.
It has, yeah. And you can see it's developing already. I mean, I've been up there recently. A lot of building going on at the moment, which is a good sign.
The year of construction.
But you can see all that, the potential that's to come. So good luck to you on that. Talk to me just a little bit about, the Asia Pacific Cities Summit and Mayors Forum. I mean, this is a big international event that you've actually bid for and won. It's going to be a lot of focus on Dubai again in October. Tell me about that.
So I think that it was a global bid, and we bid because against some big Asia Pacific cities and some other global cities as well. But the importance for us of continuing to maintain our global outreach, continuing to be a place that's dedicated to convening for purpose. So we hosted nations, we hosted a climate conference. Hosting cities as a city is important because cities are economic engines of growth. Cities are where technology advancement takes place. Cities are where business transactions happen. Cities are really sort of catalytic in the future of asking and addressing how do you live and where do you live and what does that look like. So as an Expo City in the city of Dubai, and the role that we play in helping to shape some of the thinking in our own city and in our own country, it's important for us to continue to build those relations with other cities and places because of the opportunities that they can bring us, but also the example that we can provide them. So whether, I was on a mayoral roundtable last week with the mayor of Monrovia, some city leaders from Lagos, they begin to say, well, what can we learn from you? We can see what it looks like to be a city in action, and we have something visual that we could identify with. But then also equally other cities that are sort of as developed as a city of like Dubai, what are the notes that we can swap to work together on various issues around, say, climate resilience. You remember the floods from this time last year in Dubai. So the Asia Pacific City Summit and Mayors Forum has Asia Pacific in its name, but it's a global mayoral conference. So we have city leaders and mayors coming from the continent of Africa. We have a lot of cities from the Middle East represented, cities in India, at least 20 cities from India. I mean, India's just cities. We've got so many cities represented from this part of the world, the Asia Pacific, Europe, and North America and South America too. So it really will be a global convening around questions of solutions, and innovation, but equally resilience. So how do you build resilience into places? And also just general connectivity. How do you build connections between places?
So it's not just Expo City being a forum and a building to host this. It's almost a living, breathing event that there'll be so much to take away. That's special.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Looking ahead for, let's do 5 years because there's so much that's going on at the moment. Where do you see Expo City in 5 years, and how important will it be as an anchor, not just an event space, but as a UAE, as a Dubai space for the world?
So, I mean, if we carry on based on the current plans that we have, in that time frame, the exhibition center will be up and running. You'll have, tens of thousands of people coming through the city and through the Dubai Exhibition Center for exhibitions on a weekly basis. You have approximately 75,000 residents and commercial tenants living in the city over a sort of 3-phased approach. So in 5 to 7 to 10 years or so. You may have in the next decade the airport fully up and running, which is just a stone's throw from us. So you can imagine that the master plan is shaping, it's changing, it's accommodating these new types of groups of people that are using the facilities every day. So just a lot of activity and a growth along the lines of residential, the exhibition center, but it also will look like a lot of what it looks like today. It's not going to look too different. The nature of the shape of it, Terra as an iconic building, Al Wasl in the center of the city, the pedestrianization of it, the feel of low rise and cool and shaded and just really enjoyable as a space. I think that is definitely in our DNA, and that's not going to change.
It'll be just a lot more busier and connected, and your job will probably get a lot busier and indeed more interesting.
I hope so.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us and really talking about one of the most iconic eventful spaces, I think, here in the region, and long may it continue. We're looking forward to seeing that development. So just from all of us here at Eventful Arabia, Nadia Verjee, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks.